I'm at one of my favourite nurseries called Gordon Rigg, and I'm here to pick up some seeds to show you what I'm sowing in March. Now this year I'm trying to save money, so I'm staying focused on just collecting the seeds that I need for this year. Excuse me, these do not look like seeds to me. Oh. Okay, please, I can explain myself. There is a reason why I'm not standing in front of the seeds right now. Busted. Okay, so whilst I'm here doing some market research, let me show you what to buy in March for your garden. But I'll show you what I would get if I was buying anything, because I'm not buying anything today. At all. So they've got a mix and match deal, 5 for £10 on some of these seedlings. Now, seeds are around about £3 a packet now. One of these seedlings is about £2.50. So if you buy a pack of seeds, you're probably going to get something between 50 to 100 seeds depending on the specific variety that you have picked up. Or you're paying £2.50, so it's more cost effective to get a set of seeds. But as I have stated before, if you're like me and you've got a balcony, you might not have space, so it might be worth coming to a nursery and picking up some seedlings. So I've already started vine tomatoes, and I've got some seeds for tumbling toms, which will just tumble down off from baskets. But what I might do is opt for a completely different variety. So I don't have any yellow tomatoes, so if I wanted to try something new, I would probably pick up something like this. But just bear in mind, this is not something that you would be able to put outside. So if you are a balcony gardener and you've only got small space and you don't have a greenhouse, bear in mind that this tomato plant will still have to be kept indoors to avoid frost. And essentially it's the same thing with peppers. So I used peppers I had from the supermarket. I just collected those seeds, but there are so many different varieties. Now I cook a lot of West Indian / Jamaican food, so for me it might be worth just picking up one of these and then collecting the seeds from the fruit rather than buying a whole pack of seeds, because I don't know whether or not this plant will do well on my balcony. So as a test run, I might just get one, and then if it works, collect the seeds and then use those for next year. They have all sorts of courgettes, cucumbers and melons. I think if I was to pick something from here, I would probably go for, once again, a cucumber or a melon. But if I was to go for a cucumber, it will be a different variety, like this apple one. I've never seen those before, so I might give those a try. Another reason why you might buy seedlings is you know what works well in your space already, but you might want to try something else without putting in all of that investment to grow from seed, to do all of this just for it to not work. So sometimes it could be a good reason to pick up some seedlings just as a bit of a safety precaution. I don't know who needs to hear this, but buying seedlings or plug plants doesn't make you any less of a gardener. Can't go wrong with picking some herbs. Here you can get 5 for £10. As you can see, they are really good sizes. And all of the plants that are out now are pretty hardy, so you can put these straight out into the garden. But just make sure to shop around, because for $9.99 you can get a pack like this, so you'd be better off getting the pack rather than the 5 individual. Again, strawberries, $5.99, that's not bad at all. Some of these are already flowering. Just be careful, because first year strawberries, we shouldn't really let them flower because we want them to get big and strong for the second year. So just bear that in mind when you pick them up. Now, if you want instant colour in your garden, you cannot go wrong with primroses. They come in lots of different shapes, heights and colours, and you can get yourself a little bargain, £1.75 each. Oof. Just remember though, if you are a small space gardener, this primrose is not going to flower for all of summer. So if you do pick one of these up and they're going into a basket, expect it to flower up until April, May-ish, if you're lucky. After that point, it will stop flowering. It might take up some valuable space within your containers, so just bear that in mind. Another great option are ranunculus. These will provide some early blooms. Now, one plant that really rivals the primrose are cyclamen, and these guys are astonishing. They're so beautiful. But much like the primrose, they won't be flowering all throughout summer. Even once they've stopped flowering, there's still going to be some interest if you pick a variety that's got some beautiful foliage. Let me know if you'd like a video showing how to make spring containers. Or perhaps I could do a video showing how to create containers for all seasons. Nothing says spring like seeing your first camellia open up on your garden. Camellias grow really well in containers, and in ground they can get huge. Although they grow well in containers, it's really important to note that they prefer ericaceous soil. Ericaceous soil is more acidic, so it's easier to grow one of these in a separate pot. Another bonus is that they're evergreen with really glossy leaves, and can do well in a shady garden. Rhododendrons are another good choice, and these also prefer ericaceous soil. Vinca are also evergreen, and they are just starting to flower now. Vinca is like a vine. It crawls and spreads along on ground level, but it won't climb. Well, at least it doesn't on my garden anyway. Now's also a great time to start thinking about your hardy perennials. So one thing that I probably will pick up this month will be lupins, because I don't know about you, but the slugs always eat my flipping lupins. And yes, even on my balcony I have slugs. So what I might do is pick up some lupins. It's not going to be today, but if I can get them in early enough, then hopefully the plants will establish themselves a little bit better, because I haven't yet seen any slugs on my garden, so I don't think they're active yet. This will at least give them a bit of time to settle in and establish their roots and everything before they start to get attacked by those little mini beasts. Now's a good time to pick up some hardy perennials like salvia. This 3-litre pot is £8.99, which sounds like a lot, but later on in the season, larger plants will be £15 to £20. So if you can afford to get some now and grow them on, it's more cost effective. And as these plants are hardy, you can leave these outside and they should be able to take a frost. The other bonus is these are perennials, so these are going to come back year after year, which if you're a container gardener, as long as you keep them alive, it means that you have to do less work next year with your container. Hellebores are another springtime favourite, and just look at how beautiful these flowers are. Again, these are hardy, so you can keep these outside on your balconies or patios in containers, and they'll do just fine. Now this is something that I would probably be getting within the next few weeks or so, are some agapanthus, but they do not come cheap at all. So this little pot is £14, but some of the larger varieties are 24, 27, 25. The great thing though is they are an investment because they are perennial. They will come back year after year, but the most cost-effective way would be to most likely grow from a bare root Gosh, the views out here are tremendous, but it's time for me to get inside and see if I can find some seeds. Wow, just look at this. A Monstera Thai constellation. Some of the houseplants here are unreal. That is insane, look at that. You guys, I'm really trying to leave this place empty-handed, but just look at all of this. Oof. Now these geraniums are around about £2.75 each. So many different varieties. So this is quite tempting, especially if you want to make some baskets. But the only thing is that they're not frost hardy, so it's a gamble whether or not to pick those up now, because I wouldn't be putting these little seedlings outside now. If your clematis look old and crusty, just take a look at this. So we have some clematis here, and these are looking old and crusty too, but actually if we look at the nodes, there is some fresh growth here, and all of these have been chopped back from last year, and now they've made this new growth. Now mine are not making any form of new growth at home, but I haven't counted them out yet. Hopefully they'll return like these guys. Now is also a really good time to go and inspect some of your old pots and containers to see if they are going to make it through the next season. It could be a great time to refresh your garden, but also you might want to think about color schemes and how you can incorporate your containers into that color scheme. Iris are another great shout for some early spring blooms, and so are anemones. These are great for early pollinators, and the leaves add extra interest. Now's also a good time to pick up some dahlia or dahlia. How do you guys say it? I say dahlia. Some dahlia tubers. And that's a really great deal actually, 3 for £10. And here's a little look at the agapanthus. Now you get 2 for £4.50 here. And these are the same height as those other plants that we were looking at. It's just that you're going to have to grow them on. However, look, some of them have got a bit of green on anyway, so we know that these are healthy. And instead of flowering now, they'll probably flower around about June, July. You can also get some Bareroots Aquilegia, but I sowed mine from seed and I'll show you those in the next video. Finally, I made it to the seed library, and just look at how much is available. It can get so confusing knowing what to sow in March. So I had to take a little bit of a break and got myself some breakfast. Right, time to get back home, and then I'll share with you what seeds I ended up collecting. Anyway, time to go. If you're planning on buying any seedlings, or if you are starting to sow in March, let us know what it is that you're growing or buying in the comments below. If you do, let us know what region you're in, because what works for me on my garden might not necessarily work for you. However, someone who is living local to you might see what you're growing, and it could give them some ideas. We need to work together, people. Now, guys, it is not what it looks like. Okay, but in my defense, you know, I can't recommend things to you guys without trying them first. So therefore, it only just seems like the most responsible thing to do is to, you know, just take some of these home. But I did end up going with the cucumber variety called Apple. These will produce some small fruit, which is ideal for a balcony, especially with the wind up here. Having smaller fruit might be a little bit more beneficial than the larger cucumbers, so I thought it was worth giving this a try. I also picked up the Scotch Bennet chili peppers. I know for a fact that I'm going to be using the fruit as well, so that one's a no-brainer. I did end up going for the golden surprise, the yellow tomatoes, just to have that bit of a variety in my salads. So I know I have the red cherry vines, I know I've got some beefsteak tomatoes that I've got the tumbling tomatoes, and now I've got this yellow variety as well. So I've got a good mixture there. I also picked up some jalapenos. So this should hopefully do just as well as the Scotch Bennet and then my other peppers that I've got out there. And then lastly, I got a champagne melon. This is so unnecessary. This was, I think, the 5th plant, and I had to decide what the 5th plant was going to be. Melons will grow great. I've got plenty of space to grow them up. But again, it's the fruit. I've never got them to the stage of growing fruit, and that's mainly because I've always been so busy with show gardens and stuff like that I've not been able to keep up the watering schedule for them. So it will be interesting to see whether or not they can grow on the balcony, but I don't have much hope. So, and plus the leaves are pretty big too, so it sounds pretty much like a recipe for disaster. However, this was the free plant, and so it just made more sense for me to try one of these rather than buying a whole pack of seeds for them to not work on my garden. Right, let's get onto the balcony. If you've been following me for a while, you know I've got these rose arches on the garden. I've got quite a lot of vertical growing space on this garden just to really maximize on it. So what I need to do is think about the planting that I have on here. One of the things that I will be sowing this year are black-eyed Susans, and I had them on this back trellis last year, and they ended up climbing all over the arches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start some from seed this year, and hopefully I can get them growing all over the arches independently. What I think I'll do is have them facing this side of the arches and taking on the front section. This vertical growing section is the most challenging because of that wind coming in. The leaves on the black-eyed Susans are slightly smaller, and I tend to find that they don't lose too much water. So I'm going to give that a go. My second set of vertical climbers I'm going to be starting in March are Morning Glory seeds. I still cannot say Morning Glory without laughing. This is so pathetic. But these are so awesome. Once they get going, it can take a while, but once they get going, I found that they just take on these arches like I don't know what. And there's nothing better than to come out first thing when you're doing your morning walk and looking at those morning blue blooms. So that's going to be really awesome. Plus, this blue color should help me attract some of the bumblebees and honeybees in the area into the garden. So I'm really looking forward to that. So in this container, I normally grow root veg, but I do have this trellis up the back here. So what I'm going to do on this trellis is I'm going to start some peas. I'm going to start these off indoors and then bring them out and plant them out. But those should take over this whole trellis. Ooh-wee. Now this is my fish pond. It is not looking great at all. The fish are still at the bottom. One is sunbathing. That's Jaws. So there's Jaws. That snail was looking for the fish food. But anyway, this is trellis number 2. Each year up this trellis I grow nasturtiums. They do fantastically well. It normally covers this whole trellis. You won't see a single space by the end of summer, and it's just constant blooms on blooms. And then, because the leaves are edible, I just pop out the balcony door, snip off a couple of leaves, and then I add on to my salads. So I'm 100% maximizing on space. All throughout the garden, I have got tons of pots. So one thing I like to do is have some fillers in the containers. So some of the flowers that I'm going to be growing as fillers are cornflowers, Rebecca, and snapdragons. The aim will be to fill out most of these containers with one or two of those plants. Snapdragons in particular, we normally grow those as annuals, but on this garden they are normally perennials. It's just none of them survived because I was away for 5 months on my research trip. So in essence what I'm doing is just replacing the plants that I've lost, and then next year I won't have to worry at all about sowing anymore because they should come back. Now behind me I do have my spinach, which is doing really well. However, come round about May, all leafy greens on this garden will fail. It just gets too hot up here. They will end up bolting and going to seed. So I have some lettuce that I started in February. I'm hoping to have gotten several different harvests from those, but I aim to have those completed by May and then replaced with something else. One of the things that I'm going to be sowing in March is rocket. Rocket tends to do really well all year round on this garden, and it can take a little bit of heat as well. Not too much, because rocket also does bolt and go to seed on here, but it is more tolerant than lettuce. My wild card up on this garden for March is going to be sweet corn. I actually have grown sweet corn on the garden before. I just started it way too late. So this year I'm going to try it a little bit earlier. I'm going to put it down the far end of the garden where it's warmer, and I'm going to see whether or not I can actually get a harvest of it this year. I'm pretty confident that I can though. Ooh, exciting times. Also going to be trying these heirloom calendulas. Now if you remember, I had a chat with Lucy from She Grows Veg in my Hampton Court video. I'll put a link to that below, and she was telling us all about heirloom seeds. She gave me a whole batch of them, and this is going to be the first heirloom seeds that I try up on this garden. Really exciting. In my next balcony video, I'm going to show you how my seedlings have been getting on, and we're going to do a bit of a walk in the garden. If you found any of this useful, let me know in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Bye!